Hey, it is good to see everybody. I know today's an off Sunday because there's no Chiefs game, so it's just kind of a weird Sunday, right? You can't make jokes about the Chiefs and Broncos and things like that, but whatever. So since it's just an off day, I'm going to bore you with something that I've wanted to kind of lead into one of these messages with. I really wanted to do this video myself. Like I wanted to get in there and film this and from a different perspective. But I couldn't figure out how to do it without injuring myself or breaking equipment. So I really wanted to be in the back of a bowling center, which I can get in the back of them, and I really wanted to film a strike from the reverse point of view, right? Because like in bowling, and if those you don't know me, just sorry, I do a little bowling, and I, for those who've been here, this is just normal for me to reference bowling in a message. I try often to just avoid the subject just because I'll bore you. And so I don't really want to bore you, but here's the deal, right? Everybody knows that really when you walk up to throw a ball in bowling, the goal is to throw a strike. But it will tell you the goal is not just a strike. It's to throw, 12 of them in a row. I mean, quite honestly. And, a few others along the road as well. It'd be nice to throw 36 of them, but that doesn't happen very often. So, in fact, a friend of mine this week threw 11 in 3 straight games. So, yeah, we were 2 lanes down from him, and yeah, just disgusting to watch, to be honest. But, okay, besides the point. But, okay, so here's the deal. Getting a strike once is one thing. But there's something about the way the ball goes through the pins that if you want to strike often, you've got to have the ball go through the pins correctly. So you've got to, okay, I'll show you the video. Like, so here, professional bowler, it's not me. So you watch, she lays it down here, board 28. Like, this is the science of bowling. This ball's going to get out to 5, and then it's going to go through the pins, and it's really going to go through the pins, and it's going to exit around 22. So when you see that, when the ball leaves the deck at that position, you're going to strike a lot. The problem is oftentimes people hit that 1-3 pocket and they think, oh, just because it hits that, it ought to strike. And if it doesn't do that, you're eventually going to leave some other pins, right? So if a ball doesn't go through the pins just like that, what's going to happen is if it drives too much, you're going to leave a 9 pin. If it deflects when it hits the head pin, you're going to leave a bunch of 10 pins. So you're not going to throw strikes. So really, when you're thinking about this, you're looking at it going, okay, this is kind of there you go. Okay, so this is kind of the idea. The ball enters the pocket. The ball really, you used to say it only hit 4 pins, the 1, 3, 5, and 9. But really today, if it can split that 8, 9, that's ideal. Like if you can get the ball to go through there and take out 5 pins versus 4, now you only have to deflect pins to take out the other 5 instead of 6. So it just, all right. You have to have a goal. And the goal is the end result, right? The goal is to get there. So in order to get to that point, that's just a metaphor for life, right? You're just looking at, okay, so with bowling, you're just watching the ball go down the lane and tracing that. You know what it's trying to do, and you know what the end result's going to be because you want to get there. But the same thing is true for our lives, right? If we design a plan to do something, if we design with the end in mind, then our ability to get there is so much easier. Okay, so for those of you that, like to travel, there's certain roads that you travel on that are going to get you to certain destinations. Unless you're in Topeka. And then there's definitely a detour in the way of wherever you're going to go. But for the most part, you try and go in a direction to get to someplace. No one leaves Topeka going on Highway 75 hoping they're going to get to Denver. It just doesn't happen. Right? You're going to get on I-70, you're going to head west. Or at least some road that's going west because you're not getting there going down 75. It's not going to happen. So, the same is true for us in our lives. And we're going to go right back to Ecclesiastes 11, and we're going to kind of talk through living with the end in mind and what we can learn from Ecclesiastes 11. It says, send your grain across the seas, and in time, profits will flow back to you. But divide your investments among many places, for you do not know what risks might lie ahead. When clouds are heavy, the rain comes down. Whether a tree falls north or south, it stays where it falls. Farmers who wait for perfect weather never plant. If they watch every cloud, they never harvest. Just as you cannot understand the path of the wind or the mystery of a tiny baby growing in its mother's womb, so you cannot understand the activity of God who does all things. Plant your seed in the morning and keep busy all afternoon, for you don't know if profit will come from one activity or another, or maybe both. Light is sweet. How pleasant to see a new day dawning. When people live to be very old, let them rejoice in every day of life, but let them also remember there will be many dark days. Everything still to come is meaningless. Young people, it's wonderful to be young. Enjoy every minute of it. Do everything you want to do, take it all in. But remember that you must give an account to God for everything you do. So refuse to worry and keep your body healthy. But remember that youth, with a whole life before you, is meaningless. I realize when we read that, there's a lot of things going on there, but life is filled with uncertainties. We go to the doctor and we get a surprise diagnosis. We go to work and we're told that we're not needed anymore. We get a call and a loved one is being rushed to the hospital. We get a call and a friend or family member has been involved in an accident. Those are rough moments and moments of uncertainty. There's other moments that are maybe uncertain, but good. You get called in the boss's office and you're given a raise and a promotion. It's wonderful. You find out you're going to be a grandparent. If you've not been there, you're missing out. There's other uncertainties in life. Buying a house, doesn't matter how well you look things over. There are going to be things that do not work. And showers or sinks that leak. When buying a house, there's other uncertainties, right? You don't know whether the house is going to decrease in value because of some economic change that you're not in control of and you can't control. When we experience uncertainties, it's important for us to trust God and ask God for wisdom and trust He's going to help us through whatever uncertain moments we experience. So when we look at verses 1 through 6 in Ecclesiastes, we kind of learn this idea of embracing opportunity. So embrace opportunities. Verse 1 says, send your grain across the seas, and in time, profits will flow back to you. But divide your investments among many places, for you do not know what risks might lie ahead. When clouds are heavy, the rains come down. Whether a tree falls north or south, it stays where it falls. Ecclesiastes is telling us that we are going to have moments to invest, opportunities which come our way that we need to take advantage of. We may be faced with some things where, hey, look, there's a chance for us to do something. There's an opportunity to step out and to do something maybe we've dreamed of, maybe we've never thought of. Maybe it's something that we just like, okay, there's an opportunity here. Sometimes that's just a conversation. Sometimes it really is business opportunity, whatever. But we also see this example here from Ecclesiastes about diversification. You know, diversifying investments is really a good idea. All it means is don't put all of your savings in bowling stocks. Okay, that's a little added information. But here's the deal, okay? Don't invest only in bowling stocks. First off, there's 3 of them. I'll give you the whole list of publicly traded bowling companies. 3. Brunswick, Bolero, and Pinstripes. Okay? I know you're all rushing out right now. Most bowling companies are privately held. Now, and again, you don't care, and really I don't either, but investing only in bowling companies is a bad idea. Because what happens if bowling tanks, which it has done? Okay, so it's one of those deals. So if all of it, if your whole portfolio is in bowling stocks, you're in trouble. And again, I'm using bowling as a goofy deal, but don't do that in any way. Don't invest in one thing. But it also isn't just about bowling stocks. This isn't about What do we do with investments? This is about diversifying our lives. Now, we want to keep the central focus of all that we do God, but we have to, maybe we should diversify in friends. More than one friend is important. But in the midst of all of it, in the midst of opportunities to send grain across the water, that there might be a profit that comes back, or that we divide our investments and we might have some return, or we might be a farmer and planting seed. Whatever it may be, we have to understand there's risks and there's opportunities. In the midst of every bit of it, we have to trust God. There'll be moments where we'll take some risks and live life a little more on the risky side. In those moments, we need to trust God. There'll be moments in our lives that are a little safer. You know what? In those moments, you need to trust God. The wisdom here is, if the goal is to make money, do the best you can by working hard and investing in multiple places and trust God. Like, there's no question that we have to work hard no matter what we're doing. Verse 4, farmers who wait for perfect weather never plant. If they watch every cloud, they never harvest. Just as you cannot understand the path of the wind or the mystery of a tiny baby growing in a mother's womb, so you can understand the activity of God, who does all things. Plant your seed in the morning and keep busy all afternoon, for you don't know if profit will come from one activity or another, or maybe both. Working hard is an important principle. We're never instructed in the Bible to sit back and wait for God to provide. Now, we do expect that God is going to provide. God is going to meet our needs. But He is not telling us ever to sit back and do nothing. There are moments in the Scriptures where God provided miraculously. But we also know that from the curse, we're demanded and commanded to work hard. We're going to work hard. We're going to have to work. And everything's going to happen because of the sweat of our brow. Now, again, God's at work in the midst of our work, and we are to work hard. But trust God in the middle of all of it. Like, our work is not what we're trusting in. God is who we're trusting in. Everything doesn't have to be perfect in order to do something. Getting started is often the most difficult moment of any endeavor. One of the most difficult things for me in writing, when I was writing papers or sermons or whatever, is just getting started, just being able to start to put thoughts together and community thinking in terms of, but getting started is often the most difficult. For entrepreneurs, the most difficult moments really are the early days of the startup. They're most challenging. Now, eventually some other things come in, but they're challenging. But when you think about it, working hard is something that God has given us the ability to do. I'm not saying work crazy, but work hard. And that's what we're being instructed in Ecclesiastes, is work hard. And there's some things we can't control. We can't control the weather. There's moments where we'd like to. Okay, I mean, like fireworks season, I'd like to control the weather, right? The last couple of years have been a little crazy with tents being torn apart, but you know, like when we're selling fireworks for Speed of Light, I'd like not to lose a tent every year. But there's things that we can't control, and that's one of them. But there's a lot of things we can't control, but what we can control is who we put our trust in. And we need to put our trust in God. In the midst of it all, trust Him. Okay, so the second thought, verses 7 and 8, is to navigate life's challenges. Verse 7 says, "Light is sweet. How pleasant to see a new day dawning. When people live to be very old, let them rejoice in every day of life, but let them also remember there will be many dark days. Everything still to come is meaningless." Now that's depressing, right? That everything is meaningless. And look, everything of this world that we're not sowing towards the eternity is meaningless. But Angela and I yesterday were driving. We were driving out here last night after dinner, and the sunset was amazing. The sun was massive. And if you didn't get a chance to see it, it was beautiful. The sunset was amazing. The sun looked just massive in the sky, and Angela's trying to shoot pictures, and the windshield had a lot of bugs on it, so they didn't look so good. Now, verse 7 says, light is sweet. How pleasant to see a new day dawning. Notice I'm talking about the sunset. I don't know if Kansas has beautiful sunrises or not. I don't know. Some of you might be in the same boat. And it's not because I couldn't. I just, that's not my normal. And my house does face west, so I see sunsets much more often than sunrises I don't see very often because they're, they're early, for one, and so, But when you look at that, it's life has got that, right? New day. A new day is really cool. A new day is like, wow, this is a new day. The new days are beautiful opportunities, and it's not just for the sunrise. It's a new day, and it's a day of opportunity. Every day that we get up is an opportunity for us to walk with God and to be used by Him. Every day that is a new day is an adventure that God has invited us into and to be a part of. And He's wanting us to walk that day and just celebrate it for what it's worth. The problem is it also has verse 8 on there. And I'm not in the place of very old yet, but there are days where I feel like it. Okay, so like right now, I've pulled something this morning, like getting ready. And so if I turn this way, like my head turns this way, there's pain that shoots right here. I'm like, what in the world? Am I getting old or what? Like it wasn't like I was out on my bike. Ansel and I rode 15 miles on Friday on our bikes on the trail, and it was wonderful, right? It was beautiful. I'm not in pain because of that. I'm in pain because I was like, putting a shirt on or something. I mean, there's just like, what is that? So you rejoice in every day of life, but those days of life tend to come with some extra pains and hurts for some reason. I don't know what the deal is. But that's just the nature of it. And so life has challenges. Life is not as easy all the time as we'd like it to be. And we go through these moments where we sense that there's a rough spot. Remember, even in those rough moments and in those challenges, God is with you. And you have rough moments at no matter what stage of life you are, they just change a little bit. Some of those rough moments when you are younger are, with kids and just like you feel like you never have a moment to breathe in your life because you have little children or whatever, and it just, and then those things change as you go through life. They're just different. So life's going to have challenges, but they're also filled with opportunity. And so when we think about what God has given us, yes, there are going to be challenges. There's going to be moments of life that are not so fun. But every day is a day of opportunity. And every day is a day of experiencing the challenge that you're faced today and living it and embracing it and celebrating it and understanding that God is with us in that moment. We go to verses 9 and 10. It says, young people, it's wonderful to be young. Enjoy every minute of it. I just told you what it's like to... Yeah, and I know, for the young people in this room, for the younger people in the room, younger than me, you're like, oh yeah, I'm never going to be like that. I didn't do anything. I just put a shirt on and just moved, and I'm like... Enjoy life while you have no pains. Although I show up and talk to students all the time at the bowling alley, and they're like, I'm sore. Like, what are you sore for? I had to run today, cross country. Okay, I can buy that. Others of them tell me they're tired, and I'm like, why are you tired? I said, because you got a full night's sleep, didn't you? And they're like, it wasn't nothing to do with video games now, did it? And they're like, it's wonderful to be young. Enjoy every minute of it. Do everything you want to do. Take it all in. And here's the but. But remember that you must give an account to God for everything you do. Now, it gives us some instructions here. So refuse to worry and keep your body healthy. But remember that youth with a whole life before you is meaningless. Look, if all you do is live life and just do the stuff, life's going to be meaningless. Oh, you're going to do some things. You're going to enjoy some stuff. You're going to do some things, and the Ecclesiastes is telling you to enjoy every minute. But remember, there is an end. There's an end that's coming. There's an end result. You have to remember there is a moment in life when we're going to give an account to God. We're going to give an account to God for everything that we do. Young, middle, older, you're going to give an account. Every one of us. And we got to live with that in mind. We got to live with that focus. We got to live with the understanding that, look, there is an end that's coming. What kind of life do I want to live to get to that moment where I'm going to give an account to God? Look, I find it interesting that in a few thousand years, everything, so much has changed. And I mean, not everything, but a lot of things have stayed the same too, right? I mean, think about it. There's a lot of things that have changed, but yet the wisdom of the Scriptures still help us navigate life today. We might be launching rockets into space and know how to get them to, come back, and we can reuse them, and that's really cool. We can fly across oceans and, in hours instead of sailing across the ocean in days. But the wisdom of Ecclesiastes is still relevant. There will be uncertainty in life. Trust God in it. Diversify your life. Trust God in it. Work hard. Trust God while you work hard. There will be challenges. Trust God in them. So much of what we look at and so much of what we have, the question becomes, are we going to live a life that honors God and leaves a legacy behind? That people are going to be changed and people's lives are going to be different because of how you and I live our lives. Right? What is it? What are we going to leave behind? What are we going to... Look, if all I leave behind are cool bowling analogies, that's meaningless. If my bowling analogies help me to point people to Jesus when I'm not just here in a church service and I'm in a bowling alley, then that's not meaningless. What isn't meaningless is when I sit in a bowling alley on a Friday night right before we start to bowl. Just happened Friday night, and a guy says to me, Steve, I could use prayer. I'm having some tests done for cancer. Had an MRI done. I've got a biopsy coming. Would you pray for me? And what I did was I pulled out my phone and texted our prayer group in the middle of that moment when I was with him and said, I'm going to text my prayer people as well. I'm going to be praying for you, and they're going to be praying for you. Like, that's where this all fits in, right? And I'm just saying, like, all of us, we have been given opportunities. Let's design those days and those opportunities to get to a place where life is lived in a way that we leave something behind. That when we're not there, people are going to miss because we're the person that they're walking up to saying, would you pray for me? It's really a place where we need to recognize God is with us in our good moments and in our tough moments. And we need to trust God in every bit of it. One of the cool things that I see, when I was just walking through this whole message and this whole series, and we're going to finish up next week, is when we live with the end in mind, there's a lot of things that we can look at and experience that we can navigate through, and they have less impact on us because we know they're not the end. Right? When your eyes are focused on the goal, some of the intermediate moments don't hurt as bad. Or you're able to navigate those moments because you're looking further down the road. One of the keys in teaching driving, which if you've never taught anybody to drive, that I think you should sign up for it. It's good for prayer life. It's good for a few other things. But one of the things you're doing when you're teaching somebody to drive, because the tendency is when people are learning to drive, they tend to look really close. Well, by looking really close, you have a tendency to move all over the road. And if you look further down the road, if you keep your eyes further down on the path you're going, it keeps you in a straighter line longer. It's one of the keys to staying balanced in things that you're doing. And if you ever find yourself having to run like a really tight line across water on a rail, you don't want to look down, you want to look ahead. I mean, I don't know anything about balance because I ride a unicycle and a few other things, but no, balance is all about when you look down, you're in trouble. And when you keep your eyes close, when you're learning to drive, you go all over the place. If you keep your eyes down the path where you're headed, you stay straighter and you arrive to the destination without hitting things. It's important. And that's true in life as well. If you keep your eyes on the end, if you keep your eye on the prize, the thing you're aiming for, you will get there with less damage. Oh, there'll be some rough spots. But trust God in the middle of every bit of it. Because He's promised He would be with us no matter what we go through. Lord, thank you for this morning. Thank you, God, for this time. I pray, Lord, that you'd help every one of us to live with the end in mind. Lord, even if in this moment we're sitting here and we have uncertainties in our lives, I pray, Lord, you will speak. And Lord, you will help faith and trust rise up in people's lives. They may be in the middle of all kinds of crazy and stuff, and Lord, don't know where to go and what to do and where to turn. But Lord, may this be a brief moment of pause and a moment of breathing for them to realize that they can trust you because you are trustworthy. Lord, I pray that for every person in this room, that, Lord, we will keep our eyes down the road of life, living with the end in mind. Lord, that we will recognize the wisdom of Ecclesiastes, the wisdom that we see in the midst of moments of our lives, that we will trust you. God, I pray that you would speak in these moments, that every person in this room live their life following Jesus and live with the end in mind, knowing that one day we're going to have to give an account for everything we've done. Lord, help us, I pray. In Jesus' name, amen.